Hey, Rob.
Hey.
Welcome back to the Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what everybody really wants to know first off is what's going on in the studio right now.
Tracking vocals, well, they're pretty much doing everything. So they got the drums done, and then some guitars, and they're doing the rhythms and all that. And then me and Jack, him doing the bass. So we kind of trade off and on days, because I can only go for the 2 or 3 hours, and then I'm kind of spent for the day until the next day. And then we're rehearsing for a show at the same time this Saturday in Philly. Yeah, so.
This Saturday in Philly, and then the UC Theater with Death Angel on the 25th.
On the 25th, LA on the 26th, yeah.
I think that's going to be kind of insane, right?
Oh yeah, it's Trial by Fire, man. It's like, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to remember. There's a lot of lyrics going on, there's a lot of stuff, and I haven't done it in a while, so it's kind of like, all right, throw me in the thing, here we go. You know what I mean?
I mean, not that I want to draw attention to it, but we were just joking about how long it's been and how we're getting a little bit older.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a lot of artists use,
Yeah.
the
Teleprompter.
teleprompter. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, old. Have you thought about it?
I'm not there yet. I'm pretty good right now. We'll see how it goes, man. We'll see how this Saturday goes. But I mean, look, I know the songs. But I try to explain it to people that aren't singers. There's so many aspects going on of what you can hear, things going on in the crowd, like the dynamic of the whole thing, and sometimes it just escapes me. Lyrics I've written escape me, but it's not that big a deal. I mean, I'll be okay.
I forgot the word teleprompter
Yeah.
2 minutes ago.
I know.
So that happens.
It does. And some people are good at it, and some people are not. So everybody uses them now. I mean, everybody uses them now. So it's, when I saw Geddy Lee use them, when I was like, I don't feel so bad. You know what I mean? So, but whatever. It'll be all right. I'm more worried about, I guess it would just the not doing it for a while and then doing it. I mean, I was doing Generation Kill stuff, but it's different. It's that stuff I wrote, so I'm not afraid of the timing. And Exodus has a lot of weird timing things that are like, if you don't hear everything you need to hear, like, it can be a challenge, So, but we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna try not to suck. That's what.
Well, the good news is that Exodus sold out the UC Theater with Zetro last year, and they sold out the UC Theater with you this year. So the Bay Area crowd is excited to see this, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, I mean, it's been, 4 months since everybody found out? Or, 4 months since you found out, and 2 months since everybody found out.
Christmas, yeah. I found out right around Christmas. I forget what day it was. It was right around Christmas, though, but yeah. And, yeah. I immediately started listening to, they gave me a list of songs that are possibly in the set list moving forward. And then the set list for this show, I've been listening every day and just trying to remember the words and, the phrasings and stuff. But, this album has been with me so long, I feel stupid when I don't remember something. But one thing I do is I kind of, it's like this thing when you think about something that's coming up that you're troubling remembering, you're not in the moment that you're in. And then that moment becomes compromised. And then in that moment, and so I've been thinking, I've been jumping lines, but I've been okay with it. Like, I actually remembered a lot more than I thought I was gonna. And I did yesterday, I did rehearsal 2 days ago, and I didn't use any notes. And I kind of realized, okay, so this is the one I'm troubling with, this one I'm troubling with. And so I made notes for those, and then, but we'll see, man. It'll be all right.
Even after, what was it, 10 years of
10
not
years.
singing it,
10 years.
the muscle memory still is deep down in there a little bit.
It's deep down in there, but it's also like muscle memory is a thing like that. That's.
I think that's the only thing.
Yeah, I only get back. I always had a thing like when I would tour, I would use a cheat sheet for a couple shows, and then like 3 or 4 shows in, I didn't need any more. But for a couple shows, I would rely on it because what's the first word of that verse, and it was coming up, and I wouldn't remember it, and then I looked down, and I go, oh, okay, that's it. And once I knew the first word, I was fine. But that was just, and then muscle memory came in, and then after, like I said, 4 or 5 shows, I didn't need it anymore. I stopped doing it. I just have to write what city I was in because I would forget, and I've said the wrong city a couple times, which is quite embarrassing.
Hello, Cleveland.
I try to make a joke about it. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Every city becomes Cleveland after that. That's how you get right out of that. So when it comes to the new album, how many tracks are we looking at there that you've heard so far?
I've heard all of them, but it's 11, and it's fucking heavy as fuck, man. I mean, it is fucking heavy and dark and cool. But what's surprising to me about it was there was some, like a little bit of like Motorheady rock stuff going on. I'm like, oh, cool, man. This is a little departure from the norm of Shovelhead, and it just, it was really cool, and so I get to step outside the box a little bit, which is nice, man. It's kind of cool, good challenge.
There's so many songs over the last 4 decades of Exodus that, is there anything you would compare it to past, present, or does it feel like this is a new sound for Exodus entirely in just the little song that you're talking about? Well, is it one song, a couple songs that have that vibe?
Well, Exodus is always going to have Exodus because they don't sound like anybody else. And that's just Gary and Tom and Lee. The way they do things is just different. So, and it sounds, I really can't I can't compare it to anything else, but there are elements of everything, but they've stepped outside those elements also, and they're doing a couple things that I'm like, wow, that's fucking new. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm in. You know what I mean? So, and it'll be cool, man. It doesn't take away from the fucking heaviness of it or anything. It's just a little different, but it's fucking cool. So,
I mean, the reason I'm curious is because, Bay Area thrash had its resurgence 20 years ago, and so many bands kind of started at ground zero in 2000,
including
playing
Exodus.
The 80s style.
Including Exodus.
And so it's almost like thrash started in the 80s, evolved for 20 years, and then started again and evolved for 20 years, and Exodus is still leading the way.
Definitely setting the bar pretty high when it comes to thrash. I mean, Gary and Tom they're just fucking unbelievable, man. And I feel really honored and privileged to be a part of it. It's like a crazy thing to happen. I didn't expect it. I didn't know I was getting a phone call before I got it. It all just happened like in one day, and
no one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
No, man. Yeah, and I had to think about it. You know what I mean? I have a whole life that I built up, so it was kind of like, all right, well, let me talk about it and think about it, and then it's like, all right, cool, let's do it, man. Let's go have fun. Yeah. Yeah,
because you've been doing musical projects this time.
Yeah, I've had Generation Kill, we've put out 2 albums in the last 10 years, and both of them were really, I had a lot of fun doing them, but it was different because it's mine. I got to write everything. I got to and this is more of a culmination of other people's ideas and how they want things, and whereas with at least with Generation Kill, the lyrics were mine, and I took responsibility for whatever the fuck I said. Well, here I have, there's a I don't like saying it, but there's a brand installed. You know what I mean? So you got to stay true to that, and that's kind of where I am with that. But fuck, man.
Are there lyrical themes emerging yet?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna tell you any of them. Yeah, maybe off camera I'll tell you. Yeah.
Off camera, I'm gonna go over and try and listen.
Yeah, there's no puppy dogs in this one. I'll tell you that. It's fucking dark, man.
Okay.
Some dark shit. Yeah, it's fucking cool. Yeah.
Dark times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing about my time with Exodus was always real dark. You know what I mean? And that was my favorite era. The Bonded stuff was. If you read the lyrics of Bonded, it's dark. There's some fucking dark shit going on. and my stuff was like that too. It was just a plethora of subjects, but they were all the dark side of humanity, and that's kind of what I like writing about anyway. I tried writing about the good stuff. It doesn't work. So I call One Generation Kill album "There Is No Hope" because there is no hope. It's, we're fucked. Yeah.
All we have is the music. So I think that with the singer switch, obviously it was I want to say a blow, but it was a shock. It was a shock to pretty much everyone all the way around. But what happened the last time you left Exodus? Because I never got that story.
You have to ask them. It was.
Yeah.
I think it was just more business than anything else at the time.
It was just a thanks for your service. We're doing something. We're going in a new direction.
Yeah, I don't know. That's how my own perception is. It was just business. You know what I mean? And I wasn't happy about it the first year. I it took me a year to get over it. I was pretty angry the first year, but then, then I got a call from everybody and kind of just I didn't want to live my life in resentment and anger and all that, so I just moved on and started I took a hobby, which was cars, and I made it my job, and I started my own business. I started restoring cars, and that's what I've been doing for 10 years. I've become a pretty good fabricator and a welder, and I've taken classes, and I've done all the stuff that I need to do to have a normal life, or but I make my own hours, and I have a nice house in Arizona, and I have hot rods and motorcycles, and I found a dog like a year ago. So I've always wanted a dog, but I was never in the right situation to get one. And then I was at a truck stop in Texas, about to go on tour. And I pull into Buc-ee's. You ever been to a Buc-ee's? Mm-hmm. So I'm at the Buc-ee's, and it's like 3 a.m. There's nobody there, and I get gas, and I go in, I get a coffee, and I'm not even kidding. Me and my girlfriend were talking about how Tom Hardy, he was on a movie set, and he found this puppy on the freeway, and he had it with him for the next 15 years. And I was talking about this story as we're in Buc-ee's. And I walk out with the coffee, and I go to take the pump out of the thing, and I look down, and at first I thought it was a rat, and I'm like, what is that? And I saw it was a puppy. I'm like, come here, and it walked over to me, and I picked it up, and it licked my nose, and I'm like, oh no, I guess I got a dog now. And it was this cute little abandoned 4-pound puppy, and I waited for a couple hours to see if anybody came looking for it. No one did, so I took it home, and it became my dog, and I love that dog more than anything on earth. Yeah, she's awesome, man. She's a pit bull lab mix. She's a little mutt, but she's awesome, and she's so much fun. I miss the shit out of her being here. Like, I miss my girlfriend, but I miss my dog a lot too. You know what I mean? So. Well,
the touring schedule is going to be tough on everything, right? The
yeah.
job, the girlfriend, the dog.
What's funny is I took that that puppy on tour with me for a month, and I had her between the seats in the front, and I did all the driving in the RV. And I had the dog with me the whole time, and she was the perfect dog, man. She slept while we were on stage, and she didn't eat the RV, and she didn't chew on shit, and she was a good little dog. She immediately knew to go outside to pee, and I didn't have to potty train her. She already knew, and it was like, wow, cool. She was such a good dog, man. And yeah, Lulu, I found her in Luling, Texas, so I named her Lulu, and yeah, she was great. She's taken a shit in 22 states. And Canada, 2 countries.
I'm pretty sure in the dog world, that's like...
She took a shit in the middle of the sidewalk in Montreal. She shit on Fremont Street in Vegas. She shit on Broadway in Manhattan. You know what I mean? It was pretty fucking... She took a shit on the sidewalk in Brooklyn. I mean, she's been all over, man. She's been more places than a lot of people.
I mean, it's not unusual to have girlfriends on the road. Yeah. Has there been talk of bringing her out with Exodus?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
She's too crazy now. She's a Velociraptor now. She's like a little over a year, so she's fucking crazy. But yeah, she's a good dog, man. Yeah. Aww. But she sleeps with me. She's she has her own bed, but I have her come to bed every now. But yeah. So that was my favorite tour thing that happened. I mean, I didn't get much sleep because I was driving and dealing with a puppy and singing every night. So the tour was a little bit harsh, but we got home. We had fun, man. We had a really good time. Went out with Hatriot, and those guys love the dog. Every morning, I'd bring Lulu out and everyone would say hi to her, and she, it was awesome, man. It was, she was like a little tour dog, and it was great. It was great. So, and that's the life I have now, man. I have this dog, and I wish I could bring her to work with me, but I can't because she's too crazy. She eats everything. So, but when I'm in the garage, it's funny. When I'm in the garage, she sits at the door, and I can hear her whining to know what because she's so interested in what I'm doing at all times, So, I'm in the garage welding or working on a car or whatever. She's always wanting to come out, but yeah.
So when you got the call and they were like, "Hey, it's decision time," what was that like for you then?
I had to take a day because I had to think about the customers I have. I do work at a shop, and I'm part of a group of people, Doug's Bugs in Mesa. Great shop. I've been there for a decade. We work on air-cooled Volkswagens and Porsches, and I'm a mechanic there, and they rely on me to do all the fabrication and all the stuff. So it was, that was a tough situation. So I waited a few days, and I sat down with the owner, and I was like, "Hey man, this opportunity has come up for me to go do this." And he's like, "Yeah, go do it, man. Like, we'll be here when you're going until you get back." You know what I mean? So they've allowed me to come and go as I please, which is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? And the couple things that I was doing for other people, I finished up before I came here and set it up so it can, when I get back, it'll be at another point where I can pick it up and finish the jobs that I had. And that's just how I'm going to deal with it for the next few, year, 2, 3, 4, going forward. I don't know how many years it's going to last, but they were like, I felt bad. I felt guilty leaving because I love my shop. I love the guys I work with. I love working on cars, pretty much as much as I love music. And just to leave it and walk out I felt this enormous amount of guilt. And then I sat down with everybody and I said, "Hey man, I feel guilty. I'm walking around with this and it's bugging me." And they're like, "Dude, we'd be mad at you if you didn't do it." And I was like, "Oh, that meant the world to me."
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
You're not leaving them. They're pushing you out of the nest.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go do this, and then like when I get off tour at the end of June, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna go back to the shop for whenever I'm not on tour with Exodus. I will be at the shop working full time and doing my job, which I love doing. Which is when this thing, however long this thing goes for, I mean the Stones are 80, but this thing has a expiration date, and when that expiration date comes, I'll be okay to go back to what I was doing before, which is, I would be doing that anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I was building cars and building bikes when I was in between tours, when I was in Exodus. I always had something going on, some project of something, or I'd get on a motorcycle and I'd ride around the country, or I've ridden a motorcycle 8 times across the country. I've done it. That was my other passion in life, was doing that. So, now I get to do it all, man. It's killer.
How do you juxtapose being more of a grown-up now that you're balancing a stable home and career with being in a band, whereas before it was like, I'm in this band and then I'm going to hustle for everything it takes to be in this band? It's a very different dynamic.
Yeah, so 20 years ago was, and we talked about this a little bit before the interview started, but I quit smoking 20 years ago, and my last cigarette was in your yard, in your backyard, with Paul Bostaff
right over there.
and Dave and Jack and Kevin. We sat out here and we hung out. We had a fire, and I smoked my last cigarette. It was 20 years ago, and I got in my car and I drove back to LA where I lived at the time. And back then it was easier because I didn't have a girlfriend. I subletted an apartment. I was, I didn't have any responsibilities really, except, I didn't even have I didn't know Kia cell phone back then, which I didn't even really use. You know what I mean? I still used paper maps back then. I would Google map shit out and print it out and put it on the driver's seat. Or my motorcycle, if I was on my motorcycle.
Kids today, you have no idea.
Yeah, man. I had on my motorcycle, I had a tank bag with magnets on the bottom. It would sit on top of the tank, and it had a clear zipper and clear plastic on the top, and I would get Google Maps and I'd put them in there and I'd zip it up and I'd get on my bike and I would just look down. Okay, I gotta get on this road. And
probably wasn't Google. It was probably MapQuest.
It was MapQuest. You're right. It was MapQuest. And I remember I took the 101 a couple times just for fun on my motorcycle up here, and Yeah, and I did it like I was doing it all the time. I was going back and forth, going home, and I'd be here for a week, and then I'd stay with Jack around the corner and hang out, and then I'd head back on the weekends. And most of the time I'd run down to 5, but if I had a little extra time, I'd go up to 1. And then I remember one time I came up here and we weren't rehearsing for a couple of days, and I was here, and I went, and I hadn't done this before, but I went to the Golden Gate side, and I went across the Golden Gate, and then I kept going north until I got to Oregon.
Oh my gosh.
And then I cut across and got back on the 5 and came back for rehearsals for that tour with that first Shovelhead tour.
That's a hell of a drive too.
It was crazy.
You did the Mendocino route?
Yeah, up along the coast, all the way up to Oregon.
Oh, one all the way up.
One all the way up on my motorcycle.
Still, I mean,
it was great, man. It was, I mean,
yeah. You know, we landslided a lot of that.
Yeah,
89.
I've done it a few times now. Like I've done it a handful of times now, where I've done the whole. I went from Tijuana all the way to Vancouver up the 1. Wow. Which, when you leave Tijuana, you gotta go up the 5 to LA because Pendleton's there, so you can't, that Marine base, so you gotta go around it. So you can get on LA, and then once you get out of LA, you can come up. And I just stayed on it all the way to Vancouver. I went to that little island, Victoria Island up in the Northwest. Yeah, and then I came out of Vancouver into the Cascade Mountains and came down through Idaho into all the like the Badlands and all that, and then the Dakotas, and did all that. And yeah,
I was literally just talking to my my podcast partner Steve Gorman about this, and when he was in the Black Crowes, and he's like, kids today, when they're in a band, it's so easy because they just plug their phones into the car, and then the navigation tells them everywhere they want to go. No. He's like, they've never like been in the middle of a field in Indiana trying to find, you know, an exit that didn't exist. Yeah. And we literally would just navigate by those highways. I remember driving from Fairfield and just getting on Highway 12 and staying on 12 till it hit 5, and then taking 5 all the way to 101, and then 101 to Hollywood. Yeah. Like, that's just how you did it. Yeah. I never had an ounce of navigation. I just knew the highway system and followed, oh, that says Los Angeles this way, I'm going this way.
Yeah. There were times when I drove across the country, the first couple times I did it, I would have to stop in each state and get the gas station map and then figure out, because I've done it every time, and I've never taken a freeway. Like, I've done it all backwards.
Or the coveted mom's AAA card. Yeah. That would get you the free maps.
Oh, they don't do that. Oh,
they used to, though.
Well, yeah.
That used to be the
I didn't have that. And then I've been to every national park in America. I've been to. Wow. I've ridden in all 4 corners. I've been to every 4 corners. I've done the Blue Ridge Parkway like a dozen times, if not more. The Dragon in Tennessee it's called the Dragon. It's Route 129. Is
there anything left for you to look forward to on tour with Exodus?
Yeah, so I actually said, hey, I'm gonna follow on my motorcycle. I was gonna.
You're gonna Neil Peart?
I was gonna Neil Peart it. You know what I mean? And but they were like, nah, you can't leave the mothership. I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, all right, tracks. So I'm gonna do it once though. Before all this ends, I am gonna follow the tour on my motorcycle.
Maybe the Berkeley to LA. Too early. They're not ready for that.
No, they're not ready for that. Yeah.
Fair.
I was gonna ride my motorcycle and have it here, but then I realized, the weather here sucks, and I don't want to. That's my only vehicle. Yeah. I didn't want it to be my bike and have to ride around in this shit all day. And like, I went to the city the other night. What a nightmare to park, but I was glad I was in a car because it started pouring fucking rain. I'm like, God, I'm glad I didn't take my bike. Mm-hmm. You know, but.
And winds on the bridge are like a whole new thing now.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I've been through the worst of that. Yeah, I've been through every weather pattern you can think of on a bike. I mean, I've done it all: snow, hail, wind. I've been on a bike where you're leaning the bike over like this just to go straight, and the bike is leaned over, and then it'll stop for a second. It'll stop for a second. You're holy shit, and then you got it's crazy. I was in Montana that happened. Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't been on a motorcycle in a very long time. Yeah. It's Appreciate you though.
Yeah.
So with the new songs being so new, will there be one that gets tested out on the road?
Probably not. Yeah. That's not up to me. You know what I mean? I'm the fucking new guy again, so.
But they would have given you a list, a short list.
No, we have a set list, but it's a mixture of old. No, I don't think anything new will happen until the record drops. You know what I mean? To the best of my knowledge, it probably won't happen that way.
I'm guessing you can't tell me what's on the set list.
For the 25th,
yeah,
it would be Bonded and everything Paul was a part of.
Okay. The re-record.
What do you mean?
Because you re-recorded that one.
No, I'm talking about everything that Paul did. Like, so yeah, we're doing everything off bonded, and then there's some all the ones that Paul was a part of, like maybe like some of the stuff that was on the demo or whatever. But I'm not gonna say anything. But there's some of them we're still trying to figure out what he was saying because we have no idea what the fuck was he saying here.
That is so accurate.
Because this recording's different than this one. Like, what the fuck is he saying there? We're just trying to fill in the gaps, but yeah.
It's Baloff's world. We just live in it.
That's it, man. Yeah, he was awesome, dude. He's so funny in between songs. Yeah, yeah.
Have you been listening to vaulted recordings and stuff?
Yeah, I've been listening to Another Lesson in Violence, the live one, and his version of Bonded, and then I've been listening to. Just demos that I got from a couple of fans that, like, hey man, I need a copy of this. Anybody got one? And then they would send it to me, and I'd be like, all right, cool. And then I tried to figure out lyrics from that. And so it's gonna be cool. It's just some surprises. It's gonna be fun, man. You know what I mean? So
nice.
a few guests that I'm not allowed to mention, but
nice.
Yeah. So it's gonna be cool, man. Yeah.
I think the surprise is coming back into metal. I think for so long the internet. Sorry. I know I'm a chief contributor to this, but the internet has been kind of massive spoiler to the changes in what's happening. Everybody knows the whole set list because it's on the internet. Everybody knows who's going to be showing up because it was on the internet.
Yeah.
And now we have like this concerted effort that I'm hearing from bands to be like, no, we've got surprises.
I'm not saying shit. All I know is there'll be some surprises, and that's all you get. You know what I mean?
And that they're Berkeley specific surprises, or are they Berkeley, LA, or are they Philly, Berkeley?
Well,
LA?
it's I think because it's the 40th anniversary of Bonded, I think it's that era, so they're gonna stick with that era. We're not gonna play anything new, or new, and even from my era, we're not gonna play anything. This is strictly like an homage to Paul, which is awesome. You know what I mean? I love being a part of it, and it's just. Yeah.
Because my memory is fuzzy, you came to the Bay after we lost Baloff, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I met the boys in 2004 for the first time. I had seen them before in the 80s, but I lived in New York, so I saw them on the East Coast. And then I moved to LA in 2002, early 2002, and I was a guitar tech for bands and certain players, and did a bunch of, I was just living in LA, just hanging out, surfing, doing whatever, and riding on a motorcycle around, and I decided to leave New York after 9/11, so I was like, I'm just gonna go to LA for a while and just kind of have some fun, hang out. I was in my mid-30s, and then met the boys on that Megadeth tour, and they called me after that tour, and then I said, okay, yeah, I'm in, and that was it. So for the next 10 years, but I like right after I joined the band, I gave my apartment to my buddy, and I moved back to New York, because I was missing New York at that point, and I just wanted to be home, and then I bounced between there and LA for a couple years, and then I lived here for a little while, man. I lived with 6 months. And I love the Bay Area, man. I love that. I fucking hung out. I got tattooed. I was always going down to Half Moon Bay, and I liked that whole area. And like for being a motorcycle rider, this is a great place to hang out. And plus, it's very easy to park in the city with a bike rather more than a car. So it was bike friendly. So I kind of liked the area being here. But I did miss New York, so I moved back, and And then and then I moved to Arizona 10 years ago, because so I had a hobby of I would restore cars and then I'd sell them, and I was always buying the cars out west because they had less rust. Cars back east are just filled with rust, and salt just kills them. So I was buying cars in Arizona and California and bringing them back to New York, and then fixing them up and then selling them. And after Hurricane Sandy happened, and I lost a bunch of my, I lost my house, a bunch of shit in my house, and it was devastating. So I just said, you know what, I'm gonna move to where I go get the cars. And my plan at the time was to just get a shop and do things at my own pace and work alone, and then it turned into a career. You know.
I feel like everyone has a Baloff story, but you didn't actually get to meet Paul. So
unfortunately, I never did, but I have a ton of them.
How did you kind of get in that headspace of re-recording his album?
Or
did you just not even
try?
You
got to remember, originally we weren't going to record in the studio. Originally it was going to be just a live thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I always loved Paul. I loved Paul from the moment I heard him in '85. Like, I was an Exodus fan from day one. Because he was so unorthodox in the way he did things. And I don't know if, now I know it's a lot to do with Gary too, but Paul had this really distinct voice of doing things, and I always just loved it. So when I did that, I had been singing all those songs for 5 or 6 years every night for 200 and something days a year. And so when I went in the studio, I didn't even have to think about it. I didn't even have the words in front of me. I just knew the songs, and but to get in the mindset is just, it's like I'm a pretty normal, average guy in real life, and then once I step on the stage, it's not a character, but there's another part of me that comes out. And sometimes I say the wrong thing. Sometimes I'm a little antagonistic to the crowd, but more like in a punk rock way. Like when I used to go see punk rock bands in the city, I kind of get that little vibe from them. And when I was in New York, the California bands, they seemed like that. They seemed like they were like they wanted more from the crowd. They wanted the insanity. Mm-hmm. They wanted the crazy, and then I would kind of push that. And sometimes I looked at it like this. You know how like a stand-up comedian, before they film their special, they try it out for a year. They go on tour and they do it a bunch of times. They see what works and what mm-hmm. doesn't work. And being a singer, you don't get a lot of that. You do get to try it out and see what works and what doesn't work. But it's not from day one. It takes time. And it took me years to be comfortable in my own skin up there, because it was, I would throw up before every show violently because I was just so fucking nervous about even playing a small club. Like, it was just nerve-wracking for me.
I think I remember you puking outside the Pound.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I threw up. I threw up for years, and finally it just kind of went away. But the bigger the show, the worse it was. We opened for Iron Maiden, and and I learned not to eat or drink hours before the show because I didn't want to throw up anything, because it just damages your throat.
Oh yeah.
But it kind of went away. The bigger shows, we opened for Maiden, it happened. We opened for Priest, it happened, and there were certain nights where it was worse than others. But it kind of went away after a while. But I never lost those huge amount of butterflies and that uncomfortableness of walking on stage. But once I said the first, "Hey, motherfuckers," it kind of went away, and then that character took over. That other being inside me just took over, and I just was able to do it. You
kind of gravitated towards stand-up comedians at one point, right? And,
you're friends with
you're friends with so many.
Yeah.
And
I love stand-up. I was, even before Exodus, we used to go, I lived at the Comedy Store. I used to go down and just hang out, and I knew tons of people. I knew tons of comedians, and I've been friends with, some big comedians for a long time when they were, before they even blew up, and I tried it. It didn't work. Actually, I wasn't horrible, but I wasn't great. But I could hang out with comedians at the table afterward, and nothing is better than making comedians laugh. Like saying something so fucked up that they all start laughing. Mm-hmm. And I've done that multiple times, and I always walk away going, yeah, I made them laugh.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But I have one of my really good friends is Robert Kelly. He's like a New York comedian, and Big J Okerson, and we've all just become really good friends and just good people. And I talk to them on a regular basis, like friends. You know what I mean? Now, even before the Exodus, we were all just hanging out. But even when I live in Arizona, I have the Tempe Improv, I have Stand Up Live, and I have the Desert Improv. And I go to those, a few times a month. I always just go. even if I don't know anybody, I just go and sit in the back, and I love comedy. Comedy is like the truest form of, it's one of the truest forms of art because you're responsible for what you say. And no one can say, like, I'm really good friends with Doug Stanhope, and he says awful shit.
Really does.
Really awful shit, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the funniest, most brilliant comics working. I mean, he is absolutely brilliant. And I've been to Doug's house, I've hung out with Doug, and he is a normal guy, but when he steps on the stage, he is a different being. And he's absolutely brilliant. But I've seen him, like, through the years, like, get funnier and funnier and better. And the art form that they have is, like, there's no corporate entity telling him, oh, you can't say this, or you can't do that. And even in music, I think, has a little bit of that. Like, there's certain things that you can't cross over, you just can't say. And I get it, you know what I mean? Or you can be anal cunt and say whatever the fuck you want and then have the career that you have, you know what I mean? Like, you have to own it.
There's some people that seem to have a pass, but it's because they're not trying to appeal widely.
Yeah. I think I've been guilty of that, where I've said things on stage that are you know, it's like a comedian. I said things and I was like, oh, that didn't work. I wish I didn't say that. But I had to learn. what not to say, and you know, and there's like a push and pull with the crowd, and you know, I don't forget what it's like to be a fan. So I want people to have a good time. I'm not up there trying to, you know, make their night miserable and say something fucking weird that
and I
fucks
feel your
them up.
pain because I've had that happen when I'm emceeing. You
Yeah.
walk out and you say something, the crowd just is like crickets.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny in my
How do I
head.
get this back?
Yeah, it was funny when I thought it, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But I had you know, there was a thing that I was always, I didn't plan what I was going to say. And sometimes you kind of need to do that a little bit.
You need some framework, yeah.
And I didn't do that ever. I was always against it. And I think that was a little bit of the punk rock in me, where I was just, I'm going to just say what I'm fucking thinking. You know what I mean? And sometimes it was the wrong thing to say.
Improv is a skill all its own.
It really is.
It truly
So.
Oh!
Oh, sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
It's tough.
Yeah. So anyway,
Don't
I'll get
hurt
it. I'll be all right. I'm gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's the universe's way of saying, okay, we're good here. Exodus, UC Theater, April 25th with Death Angel. Thoughts on the show? I'm excited. Obviously, we're excited, but
I will probably
So
have puke. I'll probably have puke breath. That's for sure. Because I'm gonna throw up before that one.
you sure? I thought you stopped doing it.
No, well, I haven't done it in a decade, so
Okay.
you know what I mean, like, for real. So, like, and the thing too is that it's normally you try to do the home show at the end when you're nice and warmed up, and I don't. This is trial by fire. I don't get that opportunity to. I'm gonna come out of the gate hard. You know what I mean? So.
Big breakfast, late lunch.
Yeah, I've been running every
No
day.
dinner?
I run every day. I work out every day. You know, so.
Who are you right now?
I know, man. Yeah. So yeah, I've been going to go to the gym at like 5 in the morning every day, and yeah.
I know when they were like, Dukes wants to come over at 10 a.m. I was like,
I already been up 4
Bro.
hours. 4
hours.
Yeah.
Jesus.
No, like today I got up at 5. I went to the gym. I came back. I worked on. I'm tracking today, so I was listening to that song over and over again, and then I took a shower, and then I got dressed and came over here, and yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna go do that now.
and coffee. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
he's got to go do some recording.
Yeah.